Welcome to FSHP's Fast Facts. Today, we'll be discussing Stop the Bleed. Discretion is advised. Knowing how to stop the bleed is an extremely important and life-saving skill because the number one cause of preventable death after injury is bleeding. With 3 quick actions, you can be trained and empowered to save a life. The Stop the Bleed program was prepared in an effort led by the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma, with the primary goal to save lives by educating and training both the public and first responders in bleeding control techniques, therefore aiming to improve survival rates in situations where severe bleeding occurs.
First, let's talk about personal safety. Before you offer any help, you must ensure your own personal safety. If you become injured, you will not be able to help the victim. Provide care to the injured person only if the scene is safe for you to do so. If at any time your safety is threatened, attempt to remove yourself and the victim, if possible, from danger and find a safe location. If applicable, wear gloves to protect yourself from bloodborne infections. Let's review the ABCs. The ABCs of Stop the Bleed are A, alert 911, B, bleeding, and C, compress. Let's start with letter A, or alert. First things first is you must alert EMS or call 911. You must know your location and follow instructions provided by the 911 operator. The best case scenario in these situations is to tell someone else to call 911. But if you do find yourself in a situation alone, you can follow these 3 steps. Number 1, dial 911. Number 2, put the call on speaker mode. And number 3, set the phone down so you can talk to the dispatcher while using your hands to assess and control the bleed.
The next step is B, or bleeding. Start by finding the source of bleeding and then open or remove any clothing that may be over the wound so that you can clearly see it. By removing clothing, you will be able to see injuries that may have otherwise been covered or hidden. Next, look for and identify any life-threatening bleeding. Life-threatening bleeding can be defined as blood that is spurting out of the wound, blood that is pooling on the ground, blood that will not stop coming out of the wound, clothing or bandages that are soaked with blood, bleeding in a victim who is now confused or unconscious, and loss of all or part of an arm or leg.
The last step in our ABCs is to compress. There are several methods that can be used to stop the bleed by compressing a bleeding blood vessel. You can either use pressure, a packing method, or apply a tourniquet. If you do not have a trauma first aid kit handy, you're going to apply direct pressure on the wound. You can do this by taking any clean cloth and cover the wound. If the wound is large and deep, stuff the cloth down into the wound. Apply continuous pressure with both hands directly on top of the bleeding wound. Push down as hard as you can. Hold pressure to stop the bleeding and continue pressure until relieved by medical responders. If you do have a trauma first aid kit handy, you might find yourself in 2 situations. The first is attending to a life-threatening bleed from an arm or leg, and a tourniquet is easily available to you. Wrap the tourniquet around the bleeding arm or leg about 2 to 3 inches above the bleeding site. Be sure not to place the tourniquet onto a joint and go above if necessary. Pull the free end of the tourniquet to make it as tight as possible and secure the free end. Twist or wind the windlass until the bleeding stops. Secure the windlass to keep the tourniquet tight. Finally, note the time the tourniquet was applied. Second situation may be attending to a life-threatening bleed from an arm or leg and a tourniquet is not available, or if the bleeding is from the neck, shoulder, or groin. The first step is to open any clothing that is covering the bleeding wound. Second, you want to wipe away any pooled blood. Pack or stuff the wound with bleeding control gauze, plain gauze, or clean cloth. Apply steady pressure with both hands directly on top of the bleeding wound. Hold pressure to stop bleeding and continue pressure until relieved by medical responders.
In review, always ensure your safety prior to intervening. Once you deem that it is safe to intervene, look for any life-threatening bleeding. If a trauma first aid kit is not available, use any clean cloth to apply steady and direct pressure directly to the wound. If a trauma first aid kit is available and the wound is on the arm or leg and a tourniquet is available, apply the tourniquet above the bleeding site and tighten until the bleeding stops. If the wound is on the arm or leg and a tourniquet is not available, or the wound is on the neck, shoulder, or groin, pack the wound with bleeding control and apply steady, direct pressure. If you're interested in completing Stop the Bleed training, visit stopthebleed.org and find a course near you. Or complete an American College of Surgeons Stop the Bleed interactive course that guides you through the 3 methods of bleeding control. By being trained in Stop the Bleed, you can become equipped to help in a bleeding emergency before professional help arrives. For more information, please visit stopthebleed.org.